What is actually being delivered though? Because malware, yeah, malware is malware, right? It's malicious code. It does something that you are not authorizing it to do. But how do we delineate the different types of tools? And this isn't by any means a comprehensive list of every single type of malware. And I'm sure whoever is listening out there or watching is like, oh yeah, you're missing, 12 other types or whatnot. And that's fine. But these are some of the more common ones that we're observing in the wild today, starting with maldocs. So probably the vast majority of stuff delivered by phishing, which is again the most common way of delivering malware, is going to be malicious document files. And this goes back to, again, being a human adversary, right? So you're thinking as a human adversary, what is my human victim expecting mostly to open? And that's going to be some sort of document. We email documents to each other constantly, whether that's Microsoft Office documents, PDFs, or any other kind of esoteric type of file format. But we are expecting documents come into our inbox. And adversaries know that as well. So they will package in Microsoft Office documents most commonly now with macros. And macros are just the craziest thing because for a very long time in my career, I did not ever think that a malicious macro would ever be successful. Because if you think about it, it requires so much user interaction, right? You have to get the email, you have to click on the email, you have to click on the attachment, you have to open the attachment. Then depending on your security policies, you have to click enable editing, and then you have to click enable macro, and you might get some warning windows right in the middle of those saying, hey, don't do this, you're going to get owned. And you have to just say, that's okay, I don't care, I'm so invested in opening this document already. And yet here we are today, and it is highly successful. And it's so easy to craft as well. There are so many automated tools to make macro documents. And so adversaries have been doing this continuously now for 4+ years. And just sending these things out all over the place, and with fun file names like, invoice with their date, or sales invoice, or delivery receipt, or tracking number, or whatever it is, just kind of generic documents that you expect to normally interact with. And within all these documents, they have what we call payload. So the document itself is not going to compromise you, right? So this is just a document that has malicious code that is going to then execute additional code. And that payload could be something like a downloader, or it could be a ransomware, or it could be an information stealer, or a remote access Trojan. And that is essentially up to the adversary at this point to decide, what am I going to put in here? And what can I package in here that no one's ever seen before? Because it is actually fairly easy to create and craft these completely unknown malicious documents with unknown payloads. So a common chain would be, I deliver a maldoc. So I get, as a customer or a user, I get this malicious document, I open it, I click the 12 different times that I need to own myself, and then something executes. And today, that's going to be something usually like a downloader, actually. So it's not going to go straight to your ransomware oftentimes. More or less, it's going to be a downloader that's going to download additional malware. So you might also think, wait, so if it's going to, communicate across the network, because it has to use some form of network access to download something, why would it download additional malware to then potentially download more stuff? Isn't that just more chances for us to defend it against it? And the answer is yes, it is. It absolutely is. However, each step is also kind of an obfuscation method for the adversary. So each time it does a different hop, you start getting confused. And if you start doing incident response as well, you start mixing these things up. Like, who was in first? What was the initial compromise? Where did things come from? And it also provides additional access points to that victim host. So let's say you get the downloader in, and then now you're trying to download this information stealer onto the victim host, but that gets blocked. But your initial access with the downloader still exists, which means you can still try that again and maybe send in a different tool now. So you get this downloader, maybe you get another information stealer in, so something like a trick bot. That's very, very popular nowadays. And based on what the adversary is doing there, whether that's stealing information or spreading across the network, they may then say, all right, well, I'm done. I've got access to this. I've already accomplished my mission. I might as well make some extra money. So let me go sell this access to someone that's sending ransomware out. So now you're putting this up for bid, and a ransomware operator goes, oh, okay, that seems like a pretty good organization to put ransomware on. let me pay this fee or this commission, and I'll just use that as my method to then send the ransomware. And in that scenario, that ransomware operator did literally nothing other than potentially develop some ransomware and hand it off to somebody else to go put it into the systems. So it is just insane how easy that can be. And in that entire process, right, as we've compromised all these systems, like, okay, I've got all these various tools now loaded across this organization. I've compromised a bunch of stuff. In that process, these additional tools called post-exploitation tools are oftentimes loaded. And these are things like Mimikatz or Meterpreter. And you're wondering, what the hell are those things? Those are stupid names, and they kind of are. Now, Mimikatz is a pretty well-known, what people like to call password recovery tool. It is not a password recovery tool. It's literally a credential theft tool. It's open source. It's on GitHub. Literally anybody can go and download it. There's tons of videos on how to use it, but adversaries love using it because it's so effective, and there's multiple ways to deploy it. But the commonality across all of this, though, is the fact that there are so many tools, so much malware now being loaded onto our victims. It's not just a single tool and then, okay, I'm done. The adversary is continuously loading in different parts and different tools to accomplish their tasks, which means we have multiple opportunities to defend against all of these.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how they will really pillage a host once they've got access to it. The last thing they want to do is ransomware, literally, because that's when they're potentially taking it offline. And there's all the other things they may do, harvest information, sell access, take part in some botnet, and maybe eventually once they're done with it, someone's going to pay for what's left and then ransom the computer. So
yeah, that's a really good point, because once you put the ransomware on, it's very obvious what just happened. The victim is immediately notified because they get huge warnings everywhere saying, hey, your system is now locked down and you owe us $10 million. At which point, okay, I've been owned. I need to go do some investigation now. But during that entire process, it's silent. You have these adversaries just working in the background, loading in different tools and doing all these different things on there.